Welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast, everyone. The USCX series is starting next week, and how better to take a look ahead at the start of the American season, well, or at least the big classification there, than with one of the team managers of one of the big UCI teams in the US. With me today is the team manager of Competitive Edge Racing, Tyler Samson. Tyler, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thanks for having us on. We're looking forward to it.
Could you shortly introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, my name is Tyler Samson. I'm the team director and owner of Competitive Edge Racing. We're a multi-discipline, multi-tiered cycling program. We support, obviously cyclocross quite a bit. We also have a road program. We run a neutral service event program as well too. So we support a lot of local races. We have a club aspect, and we're based out of a ski and bike shop.
Yeah, very cool. A few questions to get to know you a little bit more. What's your favorite course you've been at for racing?
I probably would say my favorite course is probably Zonhoven. I just really like sand. We have a lot of local sand pits that we ride, and the sand races are very interesting because they're always pretty consistent in the ruts and how difficult they can be. Everyone loves a good mud race, but you always know that a course that's sandy is going to be tough.
Well, and you are a mechanic, so what would you say is the worst race you've been to for a mechanic's perspective? The walk to the pits, the parking, or maybe a problem with pressure washers? There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes for mechanics, of course.
I would probably say one of my least favorite races to go to is probably Best of Song, just with how long that pit walk can be. We had racers in the juniors as well as U23 and elites, so we walked up and down that hill quite a bit to the parking.
That is indeed a very long walk. I only needed to make it once, but the press parking was right at the team parking, and I would say it's probably a 15-minute walk at least without bikes. So when you're carrying your bikes and your equipment, that's definitely not pleasant to make your way to the tunnel and then across through the spectators. So can definitely see why you chose for that one. You've been over to Europe a number of times for racing blocks. What's something that you like in terms of the cuisine? Some like a little snack or meal that you've found to be very nice?
I mean, you can never go wrong with the frites, especially there's something special about event frites that just taste a little bit better than going to a restaurant and getting them. But probably the frites and beer after a tough race.
That definitely sounds like a real cyclocross culinary experience. So you already mentioned a little bit about your background, like your team is based out of a ski bike shop. Could you tell us a bit about when your team was founded before the UCI level team became a thing?
Yeah, so we started our program as like a club shop team, 2018. It was actually myself and one other that started racing, and then we just started expanding, having some more people come out racing with us, and the program kind of expanded outside of the traditional club program, and I just started adding more people, adding more infrastructure, and just kind of grew it to where it is. Not because we necessarily wanted to at first, but just because there was a void, and we just kept trying to fill the void.
So is that really your motivation when you stepped up to the UCI level? You saw the team landscape in the US, and that was just after the folding of Cyclocross World. It was becoming quite scarce in terms of the teams there. Was that your motivation?
Yeah, so we started going over and racing in Europe, and kind of what we found our first year going over in Europe is that overall it's not too bad to go over and race over there. It's pretty easy. Everything's pretty centrally located. But registering as a UCI team gave us a little bit more independence of being able to operate without the federation. So we did it to just make that easier for us. That was the main reason why we did it.
When you are a team, I guess part of the question is like, for who are you a team? So we see like there's local teams, there is national teams, there is teams that position themselves as a development team, there's teams that position themselves as a team for everyone. What type of team would you say Competitive Edge is?
We definitely started as a development program, and that was our goal at first, was to create development opportunities for juniors and U23s. And what we found was there wasn't many places, especially with the folding of Cyclocross World, wasn't many places for us to essentially ship the athletes off to after they developed. So we kind of developed from a Devo program to an elite program. That's kind of what we're trying to foster now is, the elite level of athletes, and still trying to ship them off to maybe some European programs, but try to be an elite program within the US.
So you have your UCI team, but I'm correct in the knowledge that there is still a team below, right? Which has a lot still of that development role, maybe a feeder or a pipeline team towards your elite team.
Yeah, so we have we call it the local elite program, but what it is a regional development program that's focusing mostly on juniors or first or second year U23s. And what we're doing is we're trying to help bridge the gap from the local club program to the national level of racing. So we run a camp. We provide some extra infrastructure for the athletes at the national level events. Try to help provide a little more support than what they're getting from their traditional shop club team, and provide them with the infrastructure, the knowledge, and the resources to move from the local program to a more of a national level racing.
So you span quite an extensive group of riders. You have quite a lot of riders wearing the Compete jersey. Could you provide some perspective on how it works in terms of the daily operations of the team? Because sometimes for Europeans, it's hard to imagine what these teams are like, because when they see or think about cyclocross teams, they think about powerhouse, right? They think about Balois, who have a CEO, they have a CFO, they have people in charge of sponsorships, full-time social media employees, a bunch of coaches. That's definitely not the case in all the countries, and I would say it's more just a handful of teams in Belgium, Powerhouse, the Alpecin teams, and then as third team, of course, Balois. And even if you look at like Deeschacht or Van der Meulen, which is now called the Keuzer Bouwpunt, they don't have that luxury. So how is that for you as one of the biggest elite teams in the US?
Yeah, so we did have one full-time employee for a little bit. Unfortunately, he has parted ways to move into a different career pathway. But yeah, currently we don't have any full-time employees for the program. It's myself and Tim were Tim helped me found the program. He manages a bike shop up in Maine. I manage the bike shop here in Massachusetts, and then we bring in a bunch of other contractors for the individual event weekends. Before work or after work is when we're building all the bikes, we're gluing all the tubulars, trying to get ready for the race weekend. And then for the individual race weekend, we bring in a lot of contractors, independent contractors to work for us as mechanics. Most of our mechanics that we have, we try to get someone for the full season. So we try to find people that can commit to the 12 or 15 weekends. But yeah, we don't have anyone on staff to handle all that. All the back end, sponsorship, logistics, all that stuff. That's us doing it in the evenings after work. We do have a performance director we started working with last year, Grant Halicki, who's also the cyclocross discipline coordinator for USA Cycling. He directs one of our road programs too, but he's been super helpful working with all the athletes.
We spoke each other a number of times during the cyclocross season, and one of the races was in Kokzijde, and I just remember there being really a fleet of mechanics working on the bikes. Would you say you're therefore mainly like a team driven by mechanics? And it definitely seemed like from those conversations everybody was super knowledgeable, of course, as you can expect from a mechanics, about like the tire pressure, and that was definitely something I noticed when I was there on the ground in Kokzijde. That seemed super dialed.
Yeah, so Tim and myself, we both come from the mechanical side of the industry. It's actually how we met, was working for Shimano as a mechanic for that. So we've always kind of come out as or started the program as mechanics, learning how to be team directors. So a lot of the staff that we bring with us, we will make sure that they're all qualified mechanics, because that is super important for us.
Then if we look at your short but already quite successful, at least domestic UCI team career as a team as a whole, there was the first season, and you alluded already earlier a bit that that was a season of like learning things and getting to know things. And then last year you made a couple of signings. Eric Brunner came in, Lauren Zerner came in, who was at that point the U23 Pan American national champion. Dylan Zakrasek came in. How would you evaluate last season and those new signings coming into the team?
Big couple of years of growth for us, and you know, kind of bringing in that the higher level of athletes as kind of changing the what some of our focus is on what to provide for athletes, and we're really starting to look a lot more into the small margin gains to make sure the athletes are able to perform the best they can. Whereas before that, it was definitely like if we can do 90% of the job with 80% of the funding, that's what we're going to start with. And now we're really trying to get the last extra percent out of the bike race if we can.
Could you give some examples of what those changes have been?
The biggest change for us this year is, previously we've never had the budget to run three bikes for riders, so only two. A big thing for this year is we're switching to three bikes for everybody. So that alone is going to make a huge difference, in especially the muddy races. And then also just expanding our wheel fleet to have more equipment, so riders can have more wheel choices, tire choices, stuff like that.
So again, really focused on that mechanical part. How was it to like bring in a rider like Eric Brunner, who's been like one of the top riders in the US for at least half a decade at this point? How was it to bring him into your group? He was with you also in the European trip, training there in Benidorm, where I had the pleasure to ride with a couple of your riders, or they made me suffer, let's put it that way. But how has that have been? Is that also, I guess, it kind of answers itself, but an attribute and an element to changing that really to an elite team with feeder pipeline from a pure development team?
Yeah, it definitely brought a little more attention to the program, and we got a lot more emails from people looking to join the elite team in our development program. When we first brought him in, we were definitely, I don't want to say a little hesitant or scared of like what he'd be looking for versus what we're already providing. Tim and I, we always put a preference on making sure the equipment is sound and the bikes are where they need to be first. And really, what we found was that it was a affirmation that what we were doing was the correct thing. Like he was super stoked with everything we already had in the program we had going. So it actually was a lot smoother than kind of what we were preparing for, which just it made us feel good that we were going down the right path already.
One of the riders on your roster last year was also Henry Coote. He's now moved on to Trinity Racing. Is that what you meant earlier? Like you're looking to kind of house the best elite riders in the US, become like a good home for them, offering them a good situation, but then at the same time knowing that like maybe if you have a really good talent and then a team like Baloise for cyclocross or a road team like I don't know Lotto or some other world tour team knocks on the door, that then that's obviously still a step up.
Our programs continue to still grow. And unfortunately, we can't always grow our program at the same rate the riders are able to progress. So obviously, we'd love to retain as many riders as possible. But at the end of the day, we're always here looking out for what's best for the athletes. And so we want to make sure that their career path doesn't get stunted at all by what we're trying to do. So we're always trying to help the athletes move on to the next level as well.
Do you in a way take it also as a compliment for your program that you're able to graduate somebody to like one of the premier mountain bike development pathways?
Oh, for sure. It's something we put in our sponsorship deck that we are providing a pathway for athletes. 2 years ago we had Samantha Scott racing on the road with us. She moved up to Lotto. We just moved, Eric did just move up to Echelon for road. So yeah, I mean, it's something we've been putting out there, and it's been definitely getting us a lot more recognition. So again, it's not always bad to lose a rider. Obviously, we like to retain them, but as long as they're moving up, that's what we're trying to do.
And you mentioned just now Samantha Scott racing for you on the road. This year it appeared that your road program was bigger, more extensive, seemed like more riders, more races than last year. Was that a correct assumption going off your social media?
So, last year we were just had the women's domestic elite program, and this year we added the men's domestic elite program as well. And we're kind of working on a little bit of a project with Grant, where we've been looking at the amount of race days that the European racers have versus the American riders, especially when you start getting to the U23s and elites. And one of the biggest things that we noticed that Americans are missing are the amount of race days. The Euros are just doing a lot of stage races throughout the summer. So our goal was to try to duplicate that as much as we can. So, our road program, we're not a crit team. We don't want to go out and race a bunch of crits. We want to race stage races, and that's what we focused on. And we'll see how the results pay off this season. We had some really great racing. We got a lot of race days in the legs for the guys. Just trying to develop and build that the depth of intensity training.
That really makes a lot of sense because the combination road cross is super common in Europe, and even the full time cyclocross riders like Elisabeth, well, I guess Donaerts, I would say, but he recently just gave an interview saying that after his first season on the road with Lotto, he wants to progress even further. But you get the gist here. Like the Michael van Torenhout, he was racing the Tour of Hungary, Pro Tour race, 2 Pro in the breakaway there. But how kind of like is that in the US? Because there are a lot of stage races. But in terms of timing, you did the Green Mountain stage race just now, which is perfect timing just before the cross season. But the other races seem to be a bit more spring loaded, whereas you can see that the European cross teams race more summer loaded. That's not really a criticism of the races you're doing, more a question like how does the US stage race calendar kind of hold up, because the reports we sometimes get here in Europe are, well, it's tough. The stage races, the big stage races, have disappeared. The Tour of Utah, Tour of California. So, could you give some perspective on that landscape?
Yeah, so the U.S. road season is definitely a little tough. It starts early in April for the big ones with Redlands, and then it's the next pretty much 3 weeks. We call it the American Grand Tour because you're pretty much racing for 3 weeks straight, just with a couple more rest days between each one. It's not ideal, but it's better than nothing, and it actually works really good for training. We have a nice little break, typically June-ish or so. In the future, we're hoping to get over to Europe to actually do some more racing in Europe on the road. And then, once we kind of hit July, August, we have some more local events coming back again. So it kind of kicks up. That little summer break isn't necessarily a bad thing, at least for us as staff, because it gives us all time to work in the shop where we actually pay the bills. It definitely could be worse. It could be better. There's rumors of some more stage races coming back. So we're going to be hopeful and just kind of see what happens. But we've been pretty committed to focusing on the U.S. stage races and continuing to do that for the next season as well.
It definitely also seemed that there were a number of good results in terms of that in the Tour of the Gila. I think Eric Brunner was up there. I'm not really sure if he ended up winning, but he was for sure in the mix for the podium. And then one of your riders, Mia Asseltine, has been selected to race the Road World Championships in Rwanda, which I guess is also great news for you.
Yeah, we had some great racing at Gila. We took home 3 stage wins, one for the women's in the crit, and then two for the men. Eric got the TT as well as the crit as well. So we cleaned up on the crit day, which was pretty cool for a not a crit team. And then Mia got selected for the road race as well as the time trial world championships, and we had ended up with a handful of podiums at nationals as well.
When you say your goal is to come to Europe in the summer for racing, is that just kermesse racing? Is that the stage races? Is that aspiring to eventually, a few years down the road, not just become a UCI team, but become a UCI cyclocross professional team so you can get access to some of the even bigger races? What's your vision for that, or too early?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we'd love to, we'd love to go over and try to get some stage racing in, just because that's kind of what we're trying to be. Obviously, the Kermesse blocks have a decent amount of convenience to them, so not opposed to doing those either. We have thought about becoming a UCI cyclocross professional team. We're also looking at becoming a UCI continental team on the road as well for both disciplines, or for both the men and the women.
That definitely sounds exciting and would certainly unlock a whole new tier of racing. One thing I also noticed about your road program is that you've been taking on riders who weren't necessarily on your team, even the US men's cyclocross national champion, Andrew Strohmeyer. How has that been? For Europeans, it might seem weird that people on different teams, like the number one and two of the national championships, join forces at the road. sometimes maybe a bit of a European mindset in that is they look at Belgium and see like, oh, Elie beat rivalry with this person, Thibaut Nys rivalry with this person. Surely they don't go into the same road program. But how's that been for you this summer?
Yeah, it's been great, and honestly, Eric and Andrew are great friends, and a lot of times they actually room together. At the end of the day, our original goal for the men's road program was to create stronger cyclocross racers, and our goal is to elevate the level of cyclocross in the U.S. Not just for our team, but for everybody. So, Andrew had a free summer. He was racing with Kelly Benefits, which is a U23 program. He aged out of that program. So he was looking to guest ride for one or two road races this summer with us, and then we started looking at the calendar, and pretty much he was going to do enough road races with us to make it make sense just to have him fully, sign with us. We just did our team cyclocross camp as well right before Green Mountain, which we had Andrew out for that cross camp just to, again, if we can get all the guys riding together and training together better, then we can make U.S. cyclocross racing better. So hopefully we can be more competitive in Europe.
You mentioned the cyclocross camp you did. That's already kind of telling that the cross season is coming. What are your plans for the upcoming season? Are there any goals moving up in terms of results, or how are you looking forward to the season?
Obviously we want to win, and we want to win as many races as we can. We'd love to defend some national titles or get back some national titles and defend some Pan American championships. Our general plan is the full USCX calendar, almost all the US UCI races. That makes sense. We'll be skipping Major Taylor in order to do really rad instead, just because that's local for us. Then post Pan Ams, we're planning on heading over to race Tabor and Flamanville World Cups. Then we'll be back for nationals and head back over to Europe again for the curse period.
And in the Christmas period, how are you as a mechanic looking at that schedule, which is becoming more and more packed every year? I think this year we're looking at like 11 races in 14 or 15 days, some sort of crazy mayhem.
Oh, I love it. I think it's great. Um, Yeah, I always love the course period. I love doing lots of races. The way we set up our program is we make it so athletes have availability to race any of the races during the course period. Not that we want them to race every single race, but we do it so the riders can race what makes the most sense with them and their coaches. It does mean we the mechanics are on the road quite a bit, but that's what we're getting paid to be there for.
Which race of the kerstperiode are you looking forward to the most?
Um, I mean, you can never go wrong with Deacon. It's always a good party.
For sure, and I can't believe it, but that's one of the few cyclocross races I've never been to because the 2:30 a.m. arrival back at home kind of scares me. But I guess this year should be the year that I commit to it then and go to that racing under the floodlights with a truly unique atmosphere. So the USCX series starts in about a week. How do you feel about the season in the US starting so early in terms of planning for your riders? I know you're not the performance director. You said that Grant Holke has that role, but is it sometimes a bit difficult to plan your season as an American with a heavy load at the front and then the World Cup blocks coming in later, national championships and everything not really in sync with the European season?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot of bike racing and a lot of time. It's tough to have the riders be fresh for everything. But the one of the things that we're working on trying to change the mindset of a little bit is people being scared of racing too much. I mean, you look at how much the Euros race. I mean, how many races do they get in a year? The people that are truly cross racers, they race a lot more than we do. So, if we want to be eventually be competitive with them, we also need to work on getting that many race days. So that's something that we're working on trying to push the riders comfortably, of course, to do a little bit more racing.
Then the final question that rests me is to ask which kit we'll be seeing this season, the red comp edge or the blue comp edge, or still both?
We're moving everything to the blue this year.
All right. And on the road, I would say the road peloton has enough blue, but I think in cross you'll stand out and be one of the few teams running that light blue, that sky blue.
Yeah, thankfully I don't have to do the laundry.
Well, it could always be worse. Last year there was an American team with a full white outfit, so there's always worse for the laundry.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I think that wraps it up then. Tyler, thank you so much for your time.
You got it. Thank you.